Okay, Assalamualaikum and very good evening to all the panel. So today I am Muhammad Salihin bin Abdul Rahim, 20193420 and 31. Want to explain and present about motivational factor and sport involvement among UiTM Seremban FSR student. Okay, so that is my title of my research. Okay, we will proceed for the first slide. Okay, background of the study. Motivational factors stimulate a possible beneficial experience of participating in club sport. This experience will offer the athlete a multitude of advantages in club sport. So, which and Philip 2015. Sport involvement often has been associated with positive youth development, including higher self-esteem by Adachi, PJC, Willoughby, T 2013. For the statement of the problem, I identify that most students are interested in playing games online instead of participating in physical sport activity. So that's the research by Razak, NSA, Jabbar, FA, and Wahid, SNS, 2012. And I got another statement of problem. Student daily life are characterized by sedentary behavior. So, for example, attending university classes. So Katrina Dale, Anna Katrina Fudge, 2018 also state that obesity resulting from a lack of physical activity in this age group can have adverse health consequences later in life. So this is also from Katrina Dale, Anna Katrina Fudge, 2018. So this is the statement of the problem. Okay. Therefore, that is why I want to study the motivational factor and sport involvement. I want to know and I want to identify what's the problem, what's the consequences that can happen between motivational factor and sport involvement. If understand, for example, if understand the motivation factor, those can help in reducing obesity or disease among UiTM Seremban FSL students. Next, I proceed to my research objective. All right, for the research objective, for the first RO, the researcher to identify the level of involvement in sport among UiTM Seremban FSL student, and RO2 to investigate the motivational factor in sport involvement among UiTM Seremban student, and RO3 to examine the relationship between motivational factor and sport involvement among UiTM Seremban student FSL student. We proceed to the significance of the study. So the result of the study will be great benefit to the following. So we have three significant of study I have spread for my significance of study. The result will give some knowledge to student how the important motivation towards sport involvement. So for the parent, it will give positive thought to involve in sport, and lecturer coach boost up the motivation for student involvement. So that's one of the significant. Right, for the next literature review, we have four. We have three. We have three. The type of motivation. There's many type of motivation based on my finding. Beside the motivation effect by the parental control and also spectator. Right. So for sport involvement, we divide by three literature review. And sport involvement, the involvement of students may be encouraged to accelerate more autonomous orientation for athletic activity rather than being dominant and personal. Condrick et al. 2013. So for the motivational factor towards sport involvement, the past research identifies certain physical reasons for their activity. The finding also revealed that that people accept that their motivation and participation in sport were influenced by this motivation in terms of appearance and social factor. Okay, so the next part is research design. So non-experimental design that does not involve the situation, circumstance, or experience of the respondent. So the data will be collected using by the questionnaire. And for my sampling, my population I take from UiTM Seremban FSR student. Okay, so the total population we got in FSR student, we have 307 population. So that also included in dropout 20% of the student. So the inclusion criteria is from the population age 18 and 26 and above. So the background for this type of population must have decreased disease and in a good medical condition for this study. Okay, so the exclusion criteria, no data from the population that having any serious injury or disease. So we have identified that. And as I mentioned before, we got 307 total number of population. So this number of population is from uatmedu.my. I got from that resource website that they state for this Seremban FSR student. Okay, and according to the table Craig and Morgan 1970, the total sampling population has been identified. So how I get the population 307? I'm using table of Craig and Morgan. So I've got the total of sampling population. In this study, my sampling size probability study is chosen for the sampling technique, and I also use simple random sampling technique used because every population has equal chance to be selected as a respondent. Okay. All right. For instrumentation, I divide by the independent variable and dependent variable, that is IV and TV. For IV, motivational factor, and also for DV, sport involvement among your time semester student. So the questionnaire the questionnaire is the tools that we using to measure. And motivation factor, we will use PMQ. The PMQ means participation motivational questionnaire. So I use Likert scale from 1 to 5 scale, that is from not all important to extremely important. So we got 5 variable. For sport involvement, I take the duration, time, type of sport, and engagement in sport. So I put in my questionnaire the four question to be answered by the respondent. So I put the duration, time, type of sport, and engagement in sport. Right. So this section for the questionnaire divided into 2 sections. There is demographic information, including the sport participation in the section A, and PMQ questionnaire in the section B. So the PMQ questionnaire according to Dwyer JJM 1992. So the questionnaire I take from this researcher. Right. So the data collection. Firstly, I will go Faculty of Sports Science to take the ethic approval, and also we will recruit the respondent and conduct a short brief to respondent and explain the detail. Questionnaire distribute to the respondent, data collection and collect questionnaire. Okay. So for the data analysis, we got 3 research objectives. That is investigate the motivation factor in sport involvement among your term semester student, and to identify the level of involvement in sport among your term semester student, and to examine the relationship between motivational factor and sport involvement. So for the second and first research data analysis, we use descriptive analysis, or we use descriptive statistic. And for examine, we want to know the relationship between motivational and sport involvement, and we use Spearman correlational data analysis. Right, so this is the result for the identify the level of involvement. So as I mentioned before, we have four question. Are you engaged during the past week? How many minutes? The times, and specify the type of the engagement, and during the past week, how many times? Okay, so the duration and time also. So there are 4 items in this descriptive statistic, which during the past week, how many minutes did you play sport? So the data show that the mean has a higher the higher, during the past week, how many minutes did you play sport? Right, as we can see this, during the past week, how many minutes did you play sport? So that's score mean 76 and standard deviation 56. Because of that, the minute resulted the most number in the mean. So we can see that mean and maximum is like the higher resulted there in the data. As we can conclude from that, the other mean is lower regarding the mean and maximum data, right? So that's why I record the higher mean number is from the how many minutes it play sport, right? So next, all right. So for the next result, as we can see here, the RO2 to investigate the motivational factor in sport involvement among UTM Seremban FSL student. Okay, as the result show, I want to release the tension is the most mean number, the highest mean number. That's mean from the result we can see the respondent love to participate in sport because of to release their tension. So that the result come from because the higher mean number, and the lowest mean number is because I want to be a popular. Okay, so the mean number is 3.0358 and the standard deviation 1.08857. So that is the resulted as the lowest motivational mean for the student. So because of that, we can conclude that the respondent did not want to participate in sport because of to be a popular athlete or popular person. So that's the popularity is not the main objective for them to participate in sport, and the motivational factor is not included. So the different means between highest and lowest was 0.5789. Right, we move to the next slide. Right, this is the last slide to examine the relationship between motivational factor and sport involvement among your Seremban FSL students. So this is the last result, RO3, and the result is to examine the relationship between motivation factor and sport involvement, show that there is no significant value between motivation factor and sport involvement. This is because from the table and or from the result, 0.15, which is the strength of the relationship, height with p-value was 0.05, lower than 0.026. So the number is already stated that the significant value is not there. So for the first discussion, RO1, the finding indicate that the degree of participant sport show that there was modest amount of participation. Okay, so the finding that we that I already researched. I already researched my title because I get that the modest amount of participation, so that is not the highest number of participation from them. Okay, so some researcher, so I got some reading. Some researcher claim that lockdown would result in inactivity and a rise in sedentary conduct, that step would have to be taken to avoid these consequences. Okay, the result will show that lack of level involvement in sport during current pandemic situation. Because of the current pandemic situation, I identified that the respondent did not participate much in sport because the current situation, our environment and pandemic right now. So that is one of the why my study in a modest and moderate amount of participation. For the discussion 2, RO2, based on the finding, in the descriptive, the result is to investigate the motivational factor in sport involvement. Was shown a positive feedback regarding the motivational factor contributing toward involvement in sport. Okay. In fact, in understanding extrinsic motivation also enable educator to learn more about world that can improve the motive of students. So from this discussion, I see that the positive impact the student have give from the questionnaire towards the involvement in sport. So from the growing amount of time student must spend on studies, job and duty can also be another factor of the lack of activity in student despite positive sport motivation. And the last discussion, objective 3, the statistical analysis research objective show that is no significant, like I said, like I mentioned before, between the relationship between the motivational factor and sport involvement. So the student also need to focus on the other indicator as for their well-being to keep healthy lifestyle in involvement in sport. According to Altintas and Bayar Korup 2020, indicate that different literature results are the result of different group of study. Okay, so that means they must search for the new study for the different group of study to get the relationship between the motivational and sport involvement. And it would also be interesting to conduct study using the same instrument like mine, but need to focus more on age variable and impact on involvement motivation factor. So from that, the RO3 give me an idea to give them what they should do for the future researcher. And reference, I've got 16 reference from that. And okay, so that's all from me. Thank you so much and Assalamualaikum.